I mean, there's all sorts of different models when it comes to trying to put a co-production together. And one of the most obvious models is that different producers from different countries form an alliance with each other, a partnership together, and then they each attempt to put together finance from their own country and other countries. The agreement between the two producers is that they co-own the project and they pull in money from different territories around the world together. It doesn't have to be an alliance between two producers. It can be one production team, one producer, who then sews together a tapestry of sales to a number of different territories in the world. They may focus on the different Scandinavian territories, which individually can all pull in a little bit of money. You might get a little bit from Denmark, you might get a bit from Sweden and Norway, and then you'll look to hopefully secure a larger sale from a big territory like Germany and Britain and America and Canada. You may not always want to sell all the territories, because you might want to hold some back so that when your film is complete, you've got some opportunities to sell the film. It doesn't mean that there's a best one all the time. Often the project will dictate that there's a better way to do it for this particular project. Sometimes some countries in the world even have co-production treaties, and so if there's a treaty, then it might make sense for a Canadian to team up with an Australian and trigger the treaty. In other cases, it doesn't make sense to use the treaty model because it's legally going to cost you quite a lot of fees for a contract.
It's also fun to work with what I call my natural partners. It's fun to find other commissioning editors around the world who want to tell the same kind of stories and then to work together and be creative together. And there's fantastic stories out there, and that's why I want to do international co-productions.
There should be real reasons for entering a co-production, either that it's relevant for the production or that in different countries there are traditions. It is often said that in France, for example, it is a good idea to have a French co-producer because they have very close connections with the financiers, both at television broadcasters and at the film funds. But you're right that in other circumstances, if there's no real practical production relevance, it can be better and less time-consuming for the producer to simply weave together a sale or sales among the broadcasters. But you don't just go to Germany or go to Sweden. It's a learning process. The different countries have different channels, have different slots, have different commissioning editors with different sensibilities. Part of the important knowledge for a producer who wants to venture in that direction is to get to know the territories, to get to know the slots, and at the end of the day, to get to know the audiences these commissioning editors are catering to, so that you know that the film you're actually trying to make does have an audience in those various countries you're approaching.
And you build this knowledge up over a number of years by going to markets, by visiting the commissioners in the different countries and talking to them about what they're interested in, and it is constantly changing. So, you know, the important thing with television commissioning is to play to the audiences that those commissioners are working for.
It's so important to know your commissioning editor and what that commissioning editor has commissioned, because you probably don't have an idea that is completely so unique that it's going to jump out and get commissioned immediately. Most commissioners need to know who you are, what you've done before. Will you be able to work together for 2 years on a project? Do you get on? It's really important to attend a lot of those markets, and a lot of the industry-based festivals offer you an opportunity to get to know people very personally. And I often say to producers, don't go and pitch your project. It's almost a naive thing to do, to walk up to someone cold and pitch a project. I think you should talk about, you know, who you are, listen to what that commissioner does, ask the commissioner about their slot, what do they commission, because actually in the end, it's the program slot that it goes out on that matters, and you need to make sure your program is right for that slot.
If I don't know you and I need to be able to sort of understand who you are, then we need to have a human connection. So it's good if you sort of say, I think I'm going to do it that way, but I'm not sure yet, or what do you think, that you sort of create a dialogue. And I think it's important as well that you sort of show your passion and that you sort of trust what you're doing, because I don't know if what you say you can actually also do it. If you can deliver to what you say, because we don't know each other yet. So the more truthful, the more honest, the more passionate you can be, the better.
And there's no point being disappointed if they say no. It's actually quite important to collect rejections getting rejections is really good, because you can start to go, okay, my project doesn't work for that one, it doesn't work for that one.
Exactly.
And in the end, you are going to work with someone for 2 years, and they have to decide if they can work with you, and they're not going to work with you probably if you stand and butt into them as they leave a dinner and you pitch your project to them, because all they're going to think is you're annoying, and they're really not going to think you're great, I'm going to want to work with you. They're probably going to think you're not off on a good start. So I think it's really important to remember why people travel to these markets. You know, there's 4 or 5 very important co-production markets as far as documentary goes, and it's good to attend all of the main ones, but then every now and again try and identify a small one where you might meet people on a more personal level and sit around in unusual settings in Iceland or something, and they're the memories everyone will have to know whether you might make a program together.
Yeah, it's not just a business deal you're making, it's a personal relationship that you're developing, absolutely. And in that rejection process, when you pitch something and it's turned down, is in a way part of your research of finding out about what that person likes. You know, before you actually get the money, there's a massive research process, from watching the programming they commission, from reading what they like in the European Documentary Network guide, and then meeting them, and that's, you should see it as research. So if you go to a market and everybody turns you down, it's okay, because you've done the work of your research and you take that on to the next pitching event.
You're building on that, exactly. Except that they're saying you're not just pitching a project, you're pitching a relationship. And we oftentimes hear of projects that maybe were not right for that particular commissioner, but you linked on some level, and then maybe not this project, but maybe the next. And then again, there, like we talked about, the 3 levels of knowledge you should get to know. Is this a private television company? Is it a specialized television company? Is it a regular public broadcaster? What are the slots they have? There are probably a number of different slots, specialized or more general social, political, creative documentary. And there will be different people, again, the personalities. So there's both the type of broadcaster, the slots, then the personalities and the taste, quote unquote, of the people involved. And that is a process to be built up. It's not a one-night stand. Financing is never a one-night stand. And I always say, if you have a particular project that you want to find financing for and find an audience for, that's perfectly okay. But it's going to take a lot of time and a lot of effort. So if you have a slate and you have the ambition to actually pursue international financing and co-production and continue to produce documentaries on an international level, then it's really worth your while.